in the name of Lawrence C. Nussdorf. Larry Nussdorf was one of our founding directors. He joined us in 2004, and he stayed with us for 16 years. And during those 16 years, he gave us so much support, so much wise counsel, and so much help in shaping our institute that we wanted to use this opportunity to take this award and give it in his name. And joining me today is Melanie Nussdorf, who always was a partner with Larry in these activities, and every second so supportive and so much a part of Penn IUR. And she's now joined our board for us. Melanie, would you like to say something?
I'd like to just say that I'm so thrilled to be able to be here, to be part of the board, but in Larry's memory, so delighted that we have selected such outstanding people. He would be blown away by the two of you. And he would say that you are the future, that you are brave and smart and ambitious and energetic, and you don't say no and you don't think no. And those were qualities he valued highly in people. So we are proud of you and proud to give you this award.
You were so right, Melanie. This award recognizes those who are exemplary thinkers, who have implemented really broad visions to champion urban sustainability, to respond to urban crises, to revitalize urban centers, and to exercise their leadership in wise and memorable ways. And so we are so proud that you two have permitted us to give us this award. Our first awardee is Emilia Saiz. Emilia Saiz is the Secretary General, it's a big title, of the United Cities and Local Governments Association. This is a decades-old movement that has been working to bring the voices of cities into the global arena. But it has been through Emilia that these voices have been not whispers, but shouts. She has made sure that cities are heard. She has made sure and managed a unified voice among the 250,000 cities and local governments that she is representing and leading. She has really demonstrated how to show what their roles can be in developing and promising the needs and addressing the needs of the global crisis we are facing today. The issues of sustainable development, poverty eradication, the rights of vulnerable populations, climate change, and so forth. So Emilia, though this didn't get to you in time, you will be receiving very shortly. I'm sorry I didn't get this little star into focus here. It doesn't want to focus, but at any rate, it reads the Larry C. Nussdorf Penn Institute Urban Research Urban Leadership Award 2022. So symbolically, I'm handing it to you. Our second awardee is Claudio Orrego. Claudio Orrego has a long and distinguished career in local, national, and metropolitan leadership. A lawyer by training, he has used this training to guide the people of the places where he has been a mayor, the area of Peña León, 250,000 population, fast growing, facing many issues, which he was mayor of for several years, at least 2 or 3 decades, not decades, electoral cycles, excuse me. You're not old enough to start of decades. He then went on to be in the national government, where he worked with the Ministry of Housing and the Ministry of National Assets, and then returned to municipal government, though at the metropolitan level, first being appointed, but later winning a very contested election to be the governor of Metropolitan Santiago. And this area, I understand, has 6 provinces and 52 communes that you need to manage. And you need to manage in dealing with issues varying, really varying from the digital divide to coping with drought to innumerable things, which just making this metropolitan region work. And much to our surprise, we saw you doing this through a hip hop song. So your talents are not only legal, but they're musical. So in honor of your work, you too, I would like to present this across the screen to thank you for the service that you are giving to the citizens of Metropolitan Santiago in Chile at large. So as part of this, so let's clap. As part of this, we've asked you to share with us some of your wisdom. And so I think I will turn now to Emilia for her words.
Well, thank you very much, Jeannie and Melanie and all colleagues. You know that your institute is a real reference for the urban world. And you know, when I was informed that I was going to be recognized like this, I thought, well, I don't really think I deserve it, because, you know, my heroes are the likes of Governor Orrego. Those are the real ones, the ones that are doing the job day to day, day after day, in our streets and our territories, and in particular in his case, you know, because metropolitan areas are the big unknowns of this urban era. I truly believe that it is by acknowledging me, you are acknowledging not only a century-old movement, not decades old, but centuries old, founded in 1913. But also the efforts of those heroes that are working day in, day out for service delivery all over the world. I was thinking when I was preparing for these words, how different my inputs might have been a couple of months ago, before peace was challenged in our world in the way that is being challenged today. Not because we had an absence of war before these few months. On the contrary, war is a continuum in our world, but because it's shaking some of the foundations of the universal development agendas that we have agreed with a lot of hope and aspirations in 2015. We live in this era of unprecedented opportunities, with these universal agendas, with these universal goals that we have signaled for each other, that we have agreed upon in an unprecedented knowledge society, where everything goes really fast, changes go fast, but also what we know goes very fast. We are able to do unthinkable things. We are able to produce incredible things. And yet we are very often late in how we react to things. And we don't have the right perception of what is happening around us, because things are shadowed. Our understanding is shadowed by how to survive, actually, and by interests that might not always be the common interest. And this is very relevant for the constituency I represent, that I have decided to work for local governments, for the mayors and the governors, because they are, as no other sphere of government, faced with the challenges of the local level, of the neighborhoods, but also the world's challenges. When mayors and governors say to me that the situations are too difficult and they have no time for the abstract thinking of the international level, I always say to them, you know, you are wrong, because actually you will not be able to defend the interests, to portray the expectations of your community if you are not active at international level, if you don't contribute to shaping the international agenda. The international agenda and the local realities are fully intertwined, and we have been wrong to think that this was not that this was not the case. And this is why I think that the work at local and regional government level can actually transform societies. I am trying to push our membership at United Cities and local governments to carry the findings that they are doing every day at local level through service delivery, through being innovative, through singing their policies around. I am trying to convince them to bring those solutions to the international agenda, and to make sure that that international agenda is shaped not by the macro interest of national governments, but by the dreams and aspirations of the people. The role of local and regional governments is more than ever before, not actually only implementing agendas or providing technical solutions, but acting as a true political actor that can galvanize views. And in order to do this, it is from the local level that we will need to promote a different type of social contract, a renewed social contract, which we call a new pact for the future, for planet, for people, and for government, that puts care at the center and does not see everything as a commodity. If you start dealing with things as care and not as commodities, we will be able to change the way we relate to nature and not be an abstractive system. We will be able to ensure that people are not only seen as part of the production chain, but actually as creative figures that can help us go from the production society that this production and consumption model is promoting, to a creative society where the roles of people are valued in a different way. If we go to a care society, we will be able to value a different type of leadership, a feminist leadership for women, for men, for boys and girls that are equally empowered. And we will also be able to construct a multilateral system that is based in true partnerships, that is more inclusive, and that will not only look at sovereign interests, but that actually will be looking at community interests. That is the pact of the future that I want to promote. I'm not saying that the 250,000 members of United Cities and local governments all believe in these things. I am sure that Governor Orrego does believe in many of them, but I am confident that we can push those that are lagging behind to defend many of those values, and the transformation that we can trigger can be very, very meaningful. I am very concerned, and this was one of the questions that you addressed to me in preparation for this talk. I am very concerned about the gap that is starting to take shape between what we know we should be doing and what the people think that they need. Addressing the needs of the current generations is very relevant. And I know Governor Orrego and my membership is very concerned with that. But we will not be able to do that if we don't take into account the interests of future generations. So it is around these transformational principles around feminism, municipalism, the governance of proximity, and ecological transformation that I would like to continue fighting the good fight, and hoping that diplomacy is not oriented towards conflict resolution only, but towards transformation. So I'll stop here because one of my characteristics is that I can talk forever. So I'll stop here and we'll be glad to come back if there are any questions. Thank you very much for the opportunity, for this award, and for all the work that you are doing at Penn. Thank you.
Well, Emilia, we certainly could listen to you forever, and your optimism and your enthusiasm and the way you've captured what we need to be thinking about from the point of view of a caring community, from the point of view of the future generation, and from the point of view of how we support governors and mayors such as Governor Orrego. So thank you very much. Let us turn now to Governor Orrego. Claudio?
Well, thank you very much, Eugénie, and greetings to Emilia, of course, one of the awardees, and Melanie and all the team in the Institute of Urban Research. It's a pleasure, it's a source of joy, and also honored to be given this award that I take as part of a team of people working here in Santiago to make this a better place to live for everyone. I don't know if I can, I wanted to show a video of only one,
Sure.
5 minutes, so it's very short, to show you a little bit about Santiago, and then I'll address in the last.
Lovely. That's fine. That's lovely.
Muy pronto la ciudad de Santiago cumplirá 500 años desde su fundación. En todo este tiempo hemos hecho historia, construyendo paso a paso una gran metrópolis. Hoy nuestra ciudad se mueve al ritmo de casi 8 millones de habitantes, y aunque hay enormes signos de progreso, Santiago evidencia un desarrollo poco armónico. Fracturas sociales, inequidades urbanas, espacios de segregación. La ciudad no logra ser disfrutada por todas y todos los habitantes. Es momento de repensar. ¿Cómo viviremos nuestra ciudad los próximos 10, 50 o 100 años? ¿Qué ciudad queremos construir para los próximos 500 años? La geografía define nuestro territorio. La cordillera de los Andes, de la costa, 26 cerros isla, el Valle Central, la cuenca del Maipo, el río Mapocho, más de 1000 glaciares. Debemos poner en valor esta geografía que nos da identidad, pero que también presenta amenazas que pueden ponernos en riesgo. Debemos habitar el territorio con una óptica más resiliente. Ya no somos los mismos de hace 30 años. Somos más habitantes, más diversos y con más años por vivir. Ocupamos la ciudad de otras maneras, usamos las calles y el territorio para expresarnos. Nos movemos por nuestra región en modos y tiempos que no son los mismos de antes. Nuestra región requiere una nueva mirada, pensar y planificar la ciudad del mañana, porque de todos y todas depende tener una mejor región. Este es nuestro desafío, esta es nuestra visión. Santiago 2050, visión de región.
Well, thank you. I think you have a good perspective of the challenges of Santiago. I would say that for me, public service is not a job. It's not a profession. I'm a lawyer by profession. It's a vocation of the heart. I put all my passion, my enthusiasm in everything I do, be it at the local level, now at the metropolitan level. As the video said, and Eugénie mentioned at the beginning, this is the first time in Chile history that we have elected governors. I'm the first elected governor of Santiago with 8 million people, represent 43% of the population of the country, with 52 different boroughs, with 52 different municipalities. So you can imagine the huge challenge to govern a territory with all these authorities and all these challenges. I would say the first challenge we're facing right now is governance. We are a very fragmented city where public and private sector do not talk as much as they should, where ministries do not talk within them, between them, and where municipalities do not share a common interest. So building a new governance structure is probably the best and the most important challenge we face towards the future. How to govern a city of 8 million, where people feel involved, where their words can be heard, where everyone thinks that they have a stake in our future, our common future. My favorite saying is that our head thinks where our feet stand. That means that we need to govern in the territory. We need to govern by being at the street level with the people. Govern in these years means listening. And that is something that public officials and politicians do not always do as much as we should. Listen, listen, listen. Not only with the ears, but also with the heart. Then we also need to to foster confidence in public institutions. We are living throughout the world, probably the most profound crisis of confidence in institutions, political institutions ever. So transparency and integrity should be at the basis of everything we build. As crystal clear, everything we use, every penny we spend, should be accountable towards the people. We need everyone. Governing is not only a matter of governments. It's a matter of sharing and a common interest and a common goal. So for us, building alliances between public and private sector, building alliances with universities, with international communities, with other cities around the world, and of course with the organized community is part of our daily day job. But it's not only the fragmented city and the governance that we are facing as a challenge. We need to reinvent the way in which we mobilize in our cities. People, as countries and cities grow economically, people want to have their own car. And more sooner than later, people face themselves in their cars in the midst of a congestion that they cannot move throughout the city. So what is the role of public transport, of more sustainable mobility, bicycles, trains, even walkable cities? I remember Enrique Gil Peñalosa, that he always mentioned that a human city and a good city for living, he called it the 880 city, where children of 8 years old and adults of 80 years old feel safe in the city. So building a mobility that is sustainable for the future is also one of our challenges. Third, I would say safety and security. As in many, many cities around the world, not only in the developing world, but also in the developed world, violence, violent crime, drug trafficking, the use of weapons has increased dramatically in the past. So we need to have not only a gun control system, I know this is a very challenging topic in the US, but we also are facing the same challenges here. But then we need to educate the young people, the children, in nonviolent resolution of conflicts. We need to have a more peace culture, peace-oriented culture, and also a more comprehensive strategy for combating crime. I always say there's nothing cheaper, economically speaking, financially speaking, than keeping kids at schools. We spend millions of dollars in jails, in a judicial system, in police systems. But if we were able to keep every single kid at school, we probably will have to spend less money in policing and in the jail system. So we're building a comprehensive strategy that is both preventive and also persecutory for crime, especially violent crime in Santiago. And then we have inequality. As I show in the video, Santiago, I love my city, really. I love my country and my region. And we have the mountains. We have such wonderful both places to stay and events to participate in. But then at the same time, I have to acknowledge that by having walked these 52 boroughs of Santiago, that we don't have the same level and quality of life for everyone. Inequality is part of our wounds. And even if I'm willing to value all the assets that we have as a city, we have to face also the dark side, which is inequality. A sustainable democracy, a peaceful democracy needs higher levels of equality. And I would say that the most important shortcut for inequality in society is precisely urban equality. You cannot change the educational or job structure of a country or a city in 4 years, but you can change the way people live in a city in 4 years. Building parks, building more sustainable streets, having health accessible to everyone in different corners of the city. Those are the things that we're doing right now. always with the idea that people are first. And if it's not for everyone, it might not be for anyone. So we need to bridge that social gap and urban gap in our city. And that goes not only for mobility or parks, but also for connectivity. The pandemic showed us that one of the worst gaps, social gaps, inequalities, is the access to internet. People couldn't go to school for 2 years. People couldn't work, couldn't do some services from both banks or public sector, because they were living in what we call in Santiago red zones without bandwidth of internet. So now we're understanding the connectivity also as a basic utility that we need to provide and guarantee to everyone. And last but not least, as you see, we have very little challenges that keep us very, very busy 24 hours a day. But the last but not least is the environmental challenge. Climate change came and will stay with us. It's not a fake news. Chile and Santiago is a very vulnerable city. We have a hydrate risk, which is very extremely difficult to confront. 80% of our water for human consumption, but also for agriculture and industry, comes from our glaciers and our rivers. Unfortunately, we have had a drought for 12, this is the 13th year, consecutive drought year. I was up in the mountains during the weekend. Our glaciers are evaporating. So we need to have a hydric revolution in Santiago. We need to move from a culture of abundance of water to a culture of scarcity of water. We have been following what has been done in Australia, in California, in Israel, a very small country in the middle of the desert, where they were able to go from a scarce water country to a surplus water country. How? With a plan where everyone had their own role. We have common responsibility, both business and public sector, both citizens and agriculture, to save money, to save water, both at the corporate level, but also at the household level, to invest in infrastructure, to put technology, to monitor, to fiscalize. So we're in the process. We just declared, when I took office 8 months ago, the climate emergency situation for the city. We just delivered a couple of years ago. I was interviewed by the New York Times actually yesterday, because for the first time in 481 years of our city, we have a plan for the lack of water. We never thought of that hypothesis before. And now we're preparing what will happen when we don't have enough water for human consumption, probably by the end of this year. But then tomorrow, we are summoning private companies, government officials, community, universities, water companies to build the action plan that will adapt Santiago for this climate revolution. We cannot make rain happen, but we can prepare when we don't have enough water. And why not? To produce more water. Desalination of water, being able to capture and to reuse water, to diminish the leaking of the water in the pipelines that we have in our city. There's so many things that we can do that we are not allowed to cross our arms and wait for more rain, because it might not come. But we cannot move 8 million people to other places of the country. We need to provide them with the water and with the quality of service. So, and this is only one of the environmental, it's the most important environmental challenge, but we have also the extreme heat. We're part of an alliance right now for cities that are fighting extreme heat consequences around the world, with green roofs, with social measures. We're also facing air pollution. We're facing, the garbage processing, the circular economy. So as you can imagine, not only we need to govern in a different way by listening, by making alliances, by city participation, We need to provide results in terms of security, mobility, urban equality, and environmental sustainability. So huge challenge. I'm very passionate about it, as you can see. Things can be done. Things are being done worldwide about it. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. We want to learn from others. And if we can share some of our learnings, more happy in that case. So thank you very much for this honor. I think it's an award for my team, not only for myself, that we take with pride, but also with responsibility. People are waiting for results, not only for efforts. People want actions today, not only good diagnosis about the problems. And last but not least, people want to live in a better city, but where everyone feels as citizens, a first-degree citizen and not a second-degree citizen. And that's part of our equality challenge in Santiago right now. So thank you very much for this time.
Well, what a summary of your, not even the first year in office. It seems to me you have not even been in office for a year, and all of the things that you are thinking about and doing are just extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary. As you listen to this, Emilia, I would think that you probably have some thoughts about how taking this incredible amount of work and thinking and concerns and responses that Claudio has, and bring that into the global arena of discussions as to how the global solutions can help people. I'm wondering if you'd like to address that.
Well, I mean, I am sure that you can understand why I want to do this job, because facilitating the visibility of the work that governors like Claudio Orrego are doing around the planet is my dream come true, and I'm sure that you can understand that now. He has triggered many thoughts, Governor Orrego. I would like to start with one of the thoughts that he put up first, is that you need to govern with your head, but you need to govern where your feet are. And it is this connection and this proximity notion that differentiates the sphere of government of the territories and local governments from any other sphere of government. And this is relevant because it guarantees acknowledging what the aspirations of the communities are, what their dreams are, but also what they can actually do. The natural talent and the culture and the know-how that exists there. And it links that with the global interests. We need to start understanding local governments not as implementers of solutions for the global problems, but actually as transforming entities that actually put in value the agency and the capacity of communities. And I think that this is what Governor Orrego is doing when he gives the example of the water. I mean, if you give agency to the communities about the future of the resources, then you will be able to trigger true transformation. The climate challenge that we are facing is not one that is going to be solved by technical solutions only. And inequality is at the heart of the climate emergency that we are going through, and it will be addressing inequality will be the answer to that climate emergency, because we will need to change cultures in order to live in a new way. He has given an example about how to deal with going from water abundancy to water scarcity, but this is true for also many other things, including the new nature of jobs, new jobs. Most of the jobs that are going to be there in the future are jobs that we don't know exist right now. And most of our world is not even working in informal jobs. 40% of our world is living in informality. And so we will need to address that from this perspective of the local level in order to make sustainable change. Until we manage to understand internationally that the destinies of all of us are intertwined, until we understand that it will not be possible to give a fourth or a fifth round of the COVID vaccine in the rich countries, while the rest of the world is not even vaccinated for the first time. Until we don't understand that, we will not reach the level of maturity that we need to actually make our civilization sustainable, our planet sustainable. And all of this is actually empirically proved at the level that Governor Orrego is working. The transformations that we need to be sustained by technical solutions, but there needs to be a political and community will that go hand in hand to make the transformation happen. And that will also change the relationship between the private sector and the public sector that the governor was referring to at the beginning. The dialogue needs to change. We cannot be, the public sector, the protectors of the commons, cannot be seen as a buyer of products. As you know, they cannot be selling to the public sector the app that they have developed. It needs to be together with the public sector that we develop the answers that will be the basis for policy making. But inequality and addressing inequality will be very much at the heart of any solution, including climate emergency. And this is why I would like to, and I am encouraging our members to look at the global agendas as one single universal agendas, not splitting them in sectors. I think the work that we have been doing together with you, Eugénie, as we work towards Habitat 3, with academia, with scientists, is extremely relevant. I think the relationship between science and policy makers and local and regional governments is changing much faster than the relationship between the private sector and the public sector. And I know that public and private are not a clear cut and a clear split, and probably it's a little bit outdated to approach it from this perspective. But unfortunately, we are still stuck there. So if I am missing anything in this conversation that we are having, is valuing this conversation between science and policy making, changing the relationship, which I will also hope will help us address the trust issue that the governor was mentioning, and that I very much agree with.
Melanie, you had some questions that you wanted to ask.
I did. So Governor, I'm fascinated with the idea that you're the first elected governor. And at least in our country, once someone's been elected, especially in Congress where the term is only 2 years, on day 2, they have to start running for re-election. So I'm kind of wondering, as a political matter, how long a term do you have? And are you already working toward a re-election, or do you have to? Should you be?
Well, Melanie, our terms are 4 years, and we have up to 2 re-elections. So I could be in this office for 12 years at most. I was mayor of one of the boroughs or communes of Santiago for 8 years. And then I worked at the national level as a minister, and then also as an appointed intendente, was the name before the governor. So yes, I think for me, my understanding of campaigning is doing well my job. So I campaign every day. I listen to the people. I go to 8 different comunas every week. I have audiences for people, normal people. Not only can be a businessman. So I'm taking advantage of Zoom right now, so they can be short, and I can hear more people every week. I meet with the 52 mayors. I also have 34 councillors, regional councillors that are also elected, and they're my governing body as well. So I have to listen a lot. I also have to meditate a lot, because if not, I'll get crazy. So I also have self-care as a governor. I do sports. I come running and biking to the office every day, so I can have my mental health in a good shape. But it's different, because I mean, this is new. People are not necessarily aware of the competence. We are in the process in Chile of transferring central government powers towards the regions and the local government. So as we speak, we're drafting a new constitution. We are transferring competences from the ministries to the regional governments. And even if I don't have the legal powers, for example, for this protocol for the water emergency of Santiago, only using my political legitimacy, I summoned to my office all the regulatory bodies of the country to tell them that they needed to design this protocol or this emergency plan. And they came. And tomorrow I'm calling all the business people and the ministries and the civil society, and they will come. I don't have legal powers. It's not that I can force them to come. They're not my subordinates. But as you can see, governing is about, convoking people, to calling up people, to building alliances. Sometimes they need to be, I would say, institutionalized in legal powers and formal institutions, but more often that you will think of, they can be managed, and things can happen, and you can make change without even those legal powers, as we are facing right now. So we are in a time of change, very fast change, but the direction of the change is less power at the central level, more power in the regions and the localities. And of course, if I'm able to show that this new office is useful for those common metropolitan problems that we face, and I mentioned some of them: mobility, urban planning, safety, environment, water, especially, people will re-elect me 3 more years. If I'm not able to show them in actual facts the importance of this office and how much effort that we have put into the job, they will not re-elect me. So as democracy, but I'm willing to take that risk because I love what I do. And the most important compliment that I receive, I receive a lot of hate, of course, as you can imagine, a lot of distrust, and a lot of frustration. But what the compliment I love the most is when people tell me, we can really see that you love what you do. And that is really true.
Do you control the budget of all the mayors and heads of the boroughs that report to you? And do you have a draw on resources so that they can come to you and get additional funds to, for example, fix up a park or clean up an area?
They have, we're in a process of building this new institutionality. So this is changing by the day. But as of now, you have municipalities with their own budgets. Because we're a very unequal city, you have boroughs that are like, I don't know, Denmark, Copenhagen, Vienna, high level of quality of everything, infrastructure, parks, services, and then you have more poor boroughs where they have very little money and where they're facing, problems that any African city in a poor country in Africa are facing. So we have a budget at the regional level, and we use it to invest in a more equal way. I put the priorities. For example, parks are one of my priorities, bike lanes, health, especially mental health infrastructure, programs that are focused in those areas that have more problems, help to build a community safety network with video cameras and safety instruments at the community level, and those things we administer. So as I would say, when you are a very poor comuna, you would like to be in a very good relationship with the governor. If you're a very rich comuna, you can present the governor. However, that's my ability to make them realize that it is in their best interest to close the social gap, that there are topics in the city that cannot be fixed comuna by comuna or borough by borough. For example, safety. You are a very rich borough and you have a lot of burglary or crime, but the crime and the criminals come from another different comuna. So unless we face it in a more comprehensive way, the same with transport. Transport does not recognize the limit, the administrative limit of one borough to the other, or water. So I think we have been able in this relationship, in this building relationship, trying to understand that at the metropolitan governance level is a new level and that is necessary. This is not about taking power out of the mayors, but more taking power out of the central government. And it's not about intruding their competencies at the local level, but rather building a common agenda for the whole metropolitan area. And one of the things that I like, because I've been a university professor as well myself, and I study metropolitan areas. And one of the things I discover is that those metropolitan areas that have better governance structures that are able to overcome the fragmentation, grow more economically and are more equal socially. So it's interesting because we're building a new layer of government in Chile, especially in Santiago, that I think will make a more faster road to urban equality than if we maintain the central or fragmented approach.
Thank you.
So Emilia, you just heard Governor Orrego talk about new institutions within his country. You're working on new institutions for the world. Would you like to talk about how you're thinking that the voice of cities could be more integrated in the 21st century than they were in the 20th century into the world institutions?
Yeah, our movement comes from the peace movement. The first conference of our movement took place in 1913. It was during the exhibition, the World Exhibition in Belgium. And it was just 1 year before the break of the First World War. Europe thought that they had overcome the possibilities of war at that moment, and there was an explosion of joy. The exhibition was taking place, and the peace movement thought that local and regional governments, cities around the world could actually be the alternative of government, that they needed to come together, going a little bit from what our colleague Aram Revi calls from an international to an inter-urban system. Even at that moment in 1913, they were thinking in this way. And then a year later, the war happened, and then all the interest went back to those sovereign notions of protecting borders, etc. I have to say, Eugénie, unfortunately, this is what is happening right now. The world had discovered cities, as I call it. They have not discovered metropolitan areas yet, Governor. They have not discovered the intermediary governance and territories. They have discovered cities. The international community has discovered cities, and they have discovered cities when they realize that there is the national level cannot address the challenges that we are having alone. But they have they are very protective of their own environment, and they are only allowing cities to come into, and I stress cities because we are having difficulties explaining to the international system what territories are, such as the ones that you are shaping and that you are shaping now. They are very protective, and they don't really want to acknowledge the political role that you have. The description that the governor is giving about his lack of competencies, but his capacity, his legitimate capacity to galvanize efforts around topics that he might not have competencies around, is something that we are defending very intensively, to be part and to be taken into account in the way that our multilateral system is deliberating. We are asking mayors and governors to sit at the global table at the United Nations to ensure that they are consulted and they are part and parcel of shaping the agendas that are going to be affecting the communities. And we do not think that this is contradicting national governments. We think it's complementing national governments, because actually, subsidiarity, the fact that the closest level to those affected by decisions should be the one responsible for those decisions and should have the competencies, subsidiarity goes both ways. And so what we are asking from the United Nations, but also from the Bretton Woods organizations, is to actually do a separate chamber for local and regional governments to represent their interests and detach from the domestic affairs. I want Governor Claudio Orrego to come to the United Nations, not representing Santiago, but actually representing the notion of a shifting leadership that looks at the territorial approach in decision-making, building on his experiences in Santiago. And I would like him to sit there and to have very good conversations with their national delegation, but separate from their national delegation, having a differentiated opinion, complementary opinion for shaping the global agenda. That's what we are asking for. And we are coming close to something like that. We are starting with an advisory group that is going to be convened by the Secretary General of the United Nations, and where we are going to be able to have representation from the diverse constituency that we represent. Is really not enough. We are not even close to where we want to be, but we truly believe that it can make a difference, because we also feel that through the participation of local and regional governments, civil society will start to open up their path, and it will need to be a networked multilateralism if we want it to work. We are seeing it today in how we are approaching some of the crises that we are facing, from the pandemic to the recent invasion of Ukraine. We need different types of actors to actually think of alternative. If we keep thinking with the same actors, we will come with the same type of alternative, and it's not going to work. We will also need to change the financial structures, the international funding mechanisms. And we really hope that very soon, territorial governments, like the one that we have with us here today, are going to be able to access international financing to support the needs of their citizens. So that those are the claims that we are making. We are partially being heard, but we are very patient. You see, we will stick. We will keep making the point. And the other thing is, if we are smart enough, and we are persistent enough, and we are transparent enough, because trust is something that you gain, that you need to conquer. If we are transparent enough, and if we don't pretend to reproduce at local and regional level what the member states, the national states are doing, we will be able to create a multilateralism that is more interesting than those of national governments. What our aspiration as global organization is for civil society, for the private sector to come to our table. Once that we are all seated together, the member states will come knocking at our door. It is our hope that it will happen. I might not see it, but I better make sure that others will follow and carry the torch.
Well, I think you have a model with Governor Orrego, bringing all the people together around water. And as you were talking, I was thinking about the United Nations and its trustee council, which is no longer needed. There's a nice room that you could meet in. You could change, give them a new function. As you heard that description, Governor Orrego, what did you think? Is that something that you think is, I know you're involved very locally and worrying about local problems. And now you've got Emilia saying you've got to come to New York and be at the UN.
First, I agree with the underlying idea that most of the development agenda that is being pushed throughout the world by United Nations is being played out. It's being struggled at the local level, at the territories. Cities have been much more efficient and fast in coping with issues like climate change and crime and horizontal cooperation and migration than governments and national governments. National governments are like huge ships. They're very, like the Titanic, very difficult to move. Cities move much faster because that's the way we're facing our constituency. We need to be on top of our toes all the time. We have a surprise test every day. And so we cannot wait for 4 years because we won't be in office in 4 more years. So we are, in that sense, I would say, less patient than national governments. We're very pragmatic. I don't care whether my counterpart in that what city is Republican or Democrat, liberal or more conservative, from the left, from the right. If they have a good solution for a problem that I'm facing with my people, so be my guest. Tell me how you did it. I will adapt it in my city. It will always be the same. I don't believe in copy paste, but I believe in inspiration, in common problem solving, in cooperation. And of course, when it comes to these national, international agendas, I think we are not heard as we should. And I mentioned local and regional authorities. Very often, and more often than people will think, policies are designed at the national level by technocrats that have no street level experience, that they think they know how things are going to play out. We had it with our transport system. We had the most important university professors with I don't know how many PhDs redesigning the bus system in Santiago. It was a disaster. Nobody asked the users why they needed the buses for. So there was no bus stop in Santiago in any hospital because they just draw the line from, with a computer from one extreme of the city to the other. It was very efficient, but very ineffective. So if that happens at the local level, imagine at the international level. People design urban policies without asking the mayors. They design water policies without asking the governors. They design mobility policies in asking the people. So as Emilia was saying, we need to have a place in the table. It probably won't be me because I'm too busy at the street level solving problems here in Santiago, but others can do it. Probably if I were in my second term or in my third term, probably I will have more time, things will be more under control. But I do agree with Emilia that we need a seat in the table and that a local authority, insofar they are representatives of the people, they are connected with the people, they listen to the people, they should be listened also at the international level and the national level in order to build an agenda that is more practicable and is more feasible, but not less ambitious.
Well, I think you're both on the same page here. That's really wonderful. We had 2 very specific questions from the audience for you, Governor Orrego. One is, Regarding water management, what is being done about financing the measures need to solve the water problem? And the second one is, how do you persuade your constituents and other politicians to look forward and make decisions that will benefit future generations? I think you could probably lead those two questions.
Yeah. I mean, you know, one of the problems of democratic governance in a time of climate change is that we need to face the political economy of intergenerational justice. And that is very hard. And I'm talking to a country where you're facing this issue in terms of oil consumption all the day, every day. So why and how should I ask people to tighten their belt today, modify their way of being in order to save a planet for future generations? That is very hard in a world where I would say selfishness or individualism instead of solidarity and common good are the last word. But we have to do it, and we need pedagogy, we need marketing, we need the seductive capacity of both speech and action to show people that unless we do it, we won't have a future. Santiago will not sustain without water. And we have to use the crisis. I've been criticized. You cannot imagine how many people criticize me because I'm asking people to prepare for the Zero Water Day. And I'm taking advantage of that criticism to orchestrate a national, regional and citywide debate. And of course, I understand that, you know, big mining companies and the agriculture and the big companies have an important responsibility as well. But I need everyone to talk about these issues. And I think we're doing it. And people are, you know, I use a lot of social media. So by the day, I get thousands of people, denounces of this municipality wasting water, this company wasting water, people promoting good practices in terms of how can we save water. You can have whatever idea you want personally about Israel and whatever policy they're facing there, but everyone recognizes that they did it in terms of water. So even in a very politicized world, you are asking people to say, you know, let's go and learn. We just had an international forum with the, I would say, chief water officer of Israel. I mean, everyone was connected because they know that we have to learn, and we cannot we don't have the money nor the time to reinvent the wheel. If someone already did something useful, we need to copy it or adapt it to the Chilean reality. So I would say it's not without challenges and political discussion, Eugénie. People resist change, both in the public sector, in the private sector, and at the social level. But people are not stupid. They understand when you are speaking with the truth. I'm not saying easy words to the people. I'm telling them to look up directly to the truth that we might run out of water in Santiago, as Cape Cod did, you know, some years ago. And unless we're able to face it and change everyone, of course, in a very equal way, where the most powerful have more responsibilities. State, the public sector, the business community have high responsibilities. But everyone has this is an ethical question. It's not only a political one, it's an ethical question. And believe me, we need to reconnect politics and ethics and economic development. Unless we do that, none of the issues of the economic and human agenda at the international level will be faced correctly at the local level. And that's the challenge we have. We need to be creative. We need to be seductive. We need to be build alliances and connect people in terms of this. And hopefully we'll have a majority, a critical mass in order to make change happen in our cities, our regions, our countries, and our world.
This has been an unbelievable session. We have Emilia, who is doing this at the global level and dealing with these crises and issues. And we have you doing this around a crisis that's very tangible. We can see how close you are connected in the work that you're doing and how very honored you are, or we are, that you've accepted our award. I'd like Melanie to close the meeting.
So first, I want to add my thanks to you, Governor, and to you, Emilia, for coming today, for being so provocative and so interesting and giving us all a lot to think about. You really are leaders, not just of cities, but of the world. And we are all in your debt. I know Larry would be so pleased to see where you're going and to take the ride with you, as are all of us on the board. And we look forward to all you will accomplish. So thank you so much. We're very grateful to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again. And your little star will be in the mail. Thank you.
But
Thank you very much.
And Jenny, if I may add, I would love to meet you guys. Unfortunately, we couldn't fly for this event, but hopefully in the near future, we can meet, hug, and have a cup of coffee or a glass of wine, Chilean wine maybe, to celebrate not only the prize, but also your testimony in the Institute, that I think is a light for all of us who are working at the grassroots level.
Well, we intend to have both of you come to campus.
Yes,
So
I
again.
look very much forward to doing that. And who knows, if Governor Orrego cannot come to the United Nations, we might have the United Nations come to Governor Orrego. You know, it's about being creative. Thank you very much. Really, it has been a pleasure to join you this evening for me. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Be creative. Bye.
Bye, thank you very much. Ciao,
Bye.
Emilia.
Ciao, un
Melanie,
abrazo.
Melanie.
Hasta
Bye,
luego.
Melanie. Thank you for everything. Bye-bye.
Bye.